Welcome to Downtown Sports. My name is Downtown Steven Brown, and in today's video, guys, there's not really any other way to say it other than we did it. And this is not the 1,000 subscriber video that I want to do. I just figured I had to mention it. And yes, I did already do the thing that I promised to do on Twitter, but I'm not going to reveal it in this video. I'm just going to look this way, and I'm just going to look that way, and you can probably guess what it is, but I'm not going to show it to the degree that I will show it off in the 1,000 subscriber video, probably tomorrow. Like I said in the previous video, in today's video, I'm going to be going over multiple armchair GMs and what I think that the Maple Leafs could do in a couple of varying scenarios. So this first armchair GM that I have for you guys, there's just one trade that was made, and I re-signed a couple of the RFAs. Not really anything too flashy here, but I acquired Mark Jankowski from the Calgary Flames for Andreas Johnsson and a 4th round pick. Now, if we're looking at these two players and comparing them, they're both pretty similar, both coming off of down seasons or seasons that had injuries in them. For whatever reasons, the players did not succeed this past season. Jankowski is an RFA. Johnsson is signed for a couple of more seasons after this one, so that does balance it out a little bit. Jankowski probably closer to the player that the Toronto Maple Leafs need, and Andreas Johnsson probably closer to the player that the Calgary Flames need, because they probably would benefit from having another scorer in their top 6. And the reason I really like Mark Jankowski here is because he played a heavy defensive first role in Calgary this season, and he still did produce positive analytic numbers to a certain degree. Definitely not his best season. The 18-19 season, where he played more of a neutral role for them, he was very good defensively. And Jankowski, if you all remember, was included in the original Nazem Kadri trade that would have saw the Toronto Maple Leafs acquire him and TJ Brodie, but Nazem Kadri nixed the deal because he did have a like an 8 or a 12 team no trade list. And the reason why I like a roster like this is because it gives the team a little bit more time to figure their shit out, right? Towards the end of this season, the reason why Kyle Dubas didn't make any moves at the trade deadline wasn't because the team wasn't, I guess it was because they weren't good enough, but because they weren't playing up to their potential. It gives the team a little bit more time to say, hey, we're better than this and we could do this. And the team needs to get better from within before they can improve on the ice, which is why I don't think that this offseason will be very eventful for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But this kind of roster gives the Maple Leafs options. It leaves their options open moving closer towards the trade deadline and next season, because you still do have a Travis Dermott. You still do have an Alexander Kerfoot. You still do have your 1st round pick for next season. And if the Maple Leafs decide that, hey, yeah, our defense is faltering again, then they have the assets to maybe go out and acquire another Jake Muzzin, maybe, like they did in years past. And we also don't really know how good Mikko Lehtonen is going to be. What if Mikko Lehtonen is that two-way defenseman that a lot of people are describing him to be? What if he is a decent pair playing on the right side with Morgan Rielly? What if he's just a good enough upgrade to take this defense from mediocre to just average, and Freddie Anderson has a bounce-back year? Because you know, here on the channel, I've talked about how hard he struggled from January onwards, posting a save percentage at 5-on-5 under 900. Like, that's hard to do. That was worse than Michael Hutchison. That was way worse than Jack Campbell. And a lot of people just said that Jack Campbell was just, you know, he wasn't anything spectacular when he got here from the Kings, but he got the job done. What if marginal upgrades and Frederik Andersen having a bounce back year is what this team needs to be contenders, and also probably not to play another top 5 team in the NHL in the 1st round? You know, there's a lot of stupid stuff the NHL is doing right now with their return to play motive, but thank God that they're going to be reseeding the teams after every round. Okay, and in this option, there are no official trades, but this is for the people that are saying that the Toronto Maple Leafs need to go out there and get a defenseman this offseason before next season starts. And in my mind, Look, giving up on Travis Dermott is beyond stupid. It's lunacy. If this guy shot right-handed, everyone would be considering him part of the core. He played on the right side in the OHL. He played on the right side in the AHL. Let's give him a little bit of time, or at least half the season, to see if he can actually do it. The thing that I really hated about Mike Babcock is he would make a change. Everyone would go, all right, that's interesting. And then the second that it stopped working, or the slightest little hint that it wasn't going to work out, he would break it up. And it's just like, that's not how you progressively make change. So in my mind, if you would like to upgrade the defense further before next season starts, I think it's absolute lunacy, like I said, to give up on Travis Dermott right away. So if you're not giving up on Travis Dermott and you would like to upgrade the defense, then that means that Rasmus Sandin is starting the season in the AHL. And I mean, that's not a horrible thing, because looking at the D-core right now, there's not really room for him to be playing on the power play. More than likely, Morgan Rielly and Mikko Lehtonen will be getting those minutes, and Rasmus Sandin does not currently kill penalties. So if he's going to go down to the American Hockey League and develop that as a skill, if Rasmus Sandin could kill penalties, he would be penciled in this lineup in an absolute heartbeat, but he can't do it. He played 7 minutes on the penalty kill this past season, and if he goes down to the American Hockey League and develops that for maybe 20 or 25 games and then comes up and maybe plays a secondary role on the second penalty kill to get his feet wet there, then I could see him eating up bigger minutes for the Toronto Maple Leafs once we have a verdict on Travis Dermott, that is. I like this option the least because, I don't know, I'm going back and forth on it. I'm kind of swaying more towards having Rasmus Sandin as a full-time player right away to start next season. I mean, I really, really want him to be in the lineup over Cody Ceci in the playoffs right now, like when the NHL comes back, but I just don't see it happening because they don't have anyone to replace the minutes that Cody Ceci plays on the penalty kill. I showed those stats several times. Cody Ceci led the Toronto Maple Leafs in time on ice on the penalty kill. There's no way that the coach is just going to take that guy out in favor of a guy that's only played 7 minutes there all season long. But if someone else could step up and fill a little bit of those minutes on the penalty kill, then yeah, then there's no debate. Rasmus Sandin would 100% be in the lineup for the playoffs this season, and he would be in the lineup to start next season. So that's why I like this option the least. It just feels rushed, and it doesn't feel right in my heart to have Rasmus Sandin in the American League. Now, again, we're getting a little bit more radical here, and the next option is going to blow the doors right off. Don't worry. Kenny Agostino is just there as a placeholder in place of Kyle Clifford because this is going to get us a little bit more cap space to go out and acquire a better defenseman to start the season next year. And this would mean that we are trading Travis Dermott before the season starts. I don't like it because, like I said, if the guy shoots right-handed or figures out a way how to play the right side consistently in the NHL, he's going to be a long-term piece of the core here in Toronto. But if you've already made up your mind, if that's what needs to be done, you got almost $4.2 million to go out and do it. And that's a healthy enough number to get another top 4 defenseman in here. And if you can't find a guy in free agency for about $4.2 million-ish there, you have assets like Travis Dermott, like the first round pick, like Timothy Liljegren in the American League that you can use to go out there and get a top 4 or a top 2 pairing defenseman that's maybe on a more team-friendly contract. I want Kyle Clifford on this team, but at the same time, I mean, $1 million was pretty conservative, I think, for Kyle Clifford. I do think that he probably gets a little bit more money than that, so you have to decide what's more worth it. Is it more worth it to go out there and get that top 4 right-handed shooting defenseman that's going to help solidify your defense, or is it worth spending more money on Kyle Clifford and having to sacrifice from that defense? I mean, to me, I think the answer is really obvious there. I'm not saying that the fighting and the tough guy element is not worth it, but a guy that plays 9 minutes a night versus a guy that's going to play 20 plus minutes a night for you in the playoffs, yeah, I'm sacrificing the guy that plays 9 minutes. I'm sorry. So if you watched the most recent episode of the Steve Dangle podcast where they had Chris Johnston on, Chris Johnston said that they're going to trade one of Johnsson, Kerfoot, and Kapanen, but most likely 2 of them. I think that the 2, if they do trade 2 of them, is going to be Johnsson and Kerfoot. I don't think the Kapanen gets traded just because of his speed and the agitator role that he took on later towards the end before the season stoppage happened. So I don't think that Kapanen gets traded here. And what this allows you to do, I'm going to bring back placeholder for you guys. And what placeholder is going to do is it's showing you that the Maple Leafs can afford to pay a guy about that much money to play in that role. And it's a range, right? You can see the number at the top of the screen, $5.7 million. That's how much money they would have left over to go out there and get a defenseman to solidify this group. And I mean, that's just about anyone available in free agency except for Alexander Pietrangelo. That's a long laundry list of trade options that I'm sure are going to be available this offseason. That's a healthy enough number to go out there and say, you know, my list goes from maybe 4 or 5 players when I had $3 or $4 million to work with to about maybe 10, 11, or 12 players to call in on now. That's a healthy enough number to go out there and fix the problem on defense. If you're looking for something more radical than this, I'm sorry, that's just not going to see it happening. If the Maple Leafs end up trading one of the core 4 players this offseason, I will delete this YouTube channel. I will wipe it clean and never post another video here just because I don't see it happening. It's not possible, barring an absolute embarrassment to Columbus or whoever they play in the first round. It's not going to happen. They are hockey players and they are people, but to the Toronto Maple Leafs, they're also assets, just like stocks on the stock market or money in the bank. You don't spend 5 or 6 years grooming an asset or watching a stock grow, where you don't spend that much time and effort developing something to make a reactionary decision with it. And I'm sorry, for those of you that want that to happen, you are going to be thoroughly disappointed. And I don't know, you might as well just be screaming at a brick wall, because I don't know what you expect the Toronto Maple Leafs to do in this situation. You wouldn't handle your finances like that. You wouldn't remortgage your house to go off to Las Vegas and bet everything on the open casino. You wouldn't do that, so I don't know why you're expecting the Toronto Maple Leafs to do that. In trading one of those guys, either the biggest hockey trade ever has to open up. Like, if there was a Ryan Johansson for Seth Jones trade available this offseason, fine, I will trade one of those guys happily. But those trades aren't available every single day or every single week or every single month or year in the NHL. That's probably the closest example to a hockey trade that we could possibly examine. Shea Weber for PK Subban, not a hockey trade. There was politics involved in it. Ryan Johansson for Seth Jones, 100% straight up a hockey deal. I think it's stupid to suggest that the Toronto Maple Leafs should use a compliance buyout if the teams are awarded them this year on John Tavares. I think that it's a little bit crazy to shop Mitch Marner, but understandable because of his contract. I will listen to offers on it, but I'm going to be very, very hesitant, and most likely a deal does not get done there. I think that you've completely missed the boat, and it's just a lazy, stupid opinion to have to say that William Nylander needs to be traded, and I'm not entertaining the idea or the thought of trading Austin Matthews. I'm sorry, you're not a fan of this team. You're not. You're just straight up not. You're just in this weird bubble where you're watching something that you don't like and you're forcing yourself to do it. And if that's what you're doing right now with this team, stop watching, because you're ruining it for everyone else around you. There's some people that do not like my videos and that do not like me, but still watch every single one of them and comment on every single one of them to tell me that I'm wrong. And I think that that's a very, very unhealthy mindset. But I mean, hey, that's your life, that's your decisions, and if you're gonna do it, thank you for the views and the comments and the the interaction with the videos. It helps out the channel a lot. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. Which option did you guys like the most out of the ones that I presented here? And if you didn't like any of them, you're more than welcome to go on to CapFriendly and create your own Armchair GM, and I'll leave the link to it in my previous video reacting to Armchair GMs on CapFriendly. If you leave the link to it on this video or any other video in the future, I will not be able to find it because I don't look for them on those videos. I purposely tell you guys to leave the link on those videos because when I'm making the next reacting to or reviewing Armchair GMs on CapFriendly, I go to the comment section on that video and I look for all the links, and I go over which ones are going to be featured in the video. And for those of you that just read the title of the last video and were absolutely outraged, mostly Buffalo fans, I think, but a couple Leaf fans in there were pretty hurt by it, but that was not meant to be taken seriously, but it was a talking point because Jack Eichel did speak out about not being happy with playing in Buffalo, and that always leads to people talking about, oh, maybe he's going to ask for a trade, and if that happens, well, what can my favorite team give up to get Jack Eichel? It's a talking point, right? And as long as it is a talking point, and as long as I address it fairly on this channel, then I feel that I should be able to use it in the title or the thumbnail or whatever. As long as I represent it in the fashion that it should be represented in, I don't see a problem with it. So make sure to like the video if you did like it, and subscribe for more, because more is always on the way. And if you guys made it this far into the video, I will just take off the hat and offer no explanation for it. You guys are gonna have to wait for the 1,000 subscriber video to know a little bit more about what I did and why. So stay tuned for that. And guys, thank you so much for 1,000 subscribers here on the channel. I promise that I'll be responsible with it. We're gonna have fun with it, but we're gonna do it responsibly. So thank you again very much, and I'll speak to you again really soon.